welcome to another episode of the Power Talk Show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Our guest today is helping founders scale through meaningful storytelling. She is the hot mess, April Palmer. April, welcome to the Power Talk Show.
Hi, it's so good to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
It is our pleasure, April. April, like before we jump into the conversation, can you tell us a bit about your professional journey and what project, what are you currently working on?
Sure, of course. I love to talk about myself, so that works really, really well. I have just a crazy journey. Like I went to college in Germany. I came back to the States. I went into healthcare. I left healthcare whenever I got divorced and my kids were little, and that was just hard. And I went into packaging. That led to like packaging design and innovation, contract packaging innovation, those types of things like back in the mid 2000s. And so this is like when the Wii was first coming out and we were working on these projects to try to like get those packaged in really innovative, cool ways. I left there. I went into business banking and then was recruited over to a company called ADP, Big Red Payroll Company. And one of the things so when I left healthcare, I went into sales. Like that was the easiest thing, to be a single mom and like be able to manage my schedule and make enough money to survive, which we didn't for a number of years, but it's fine. And one of the things that I figured out in sales is that I was good at closing deals. But one of the reasons why I was good at closing deals is because I just have an insatiable curiosity about what's going on with my clients. So instead of going in and trying to sell them something, I was going in and like giving them the Spanish Inquisition. Like I was asking them every question about everything, even if it had nothing to do with what I was selling. And it meant that I could make a really good business case for what I was selling, but it also meant that I got to go back to the product teams and say like, hey, I'm hearing this over and over and over again. And what ended up happening is I was working with product teams a lot as kind of the sales representative and like the voice of the customer. And then I left ADP and I went to American Express. And in every single role that I was in sales, I was working with people across multiple different industries with similar problems, but not the same. And I felt like maybe my superpower was taking like dichotomous information from all the things that I learned from different clients and applying it in unexpected ways. But also I got to watch all of these people start businesses. And I was like, I don't know who ties their shoelaces for them in the morning, but if they can do it, I can do it. And like, spoiler alert, I did, but I didn't do it very well. I got really caught up in a lot of the very typical founder journey, like inflection points that will just screw you over real fast. And so what I decided to do was I took a really hard look in the mirror and I thought, maybe I'm not a great founder, but what I am really good at is helping founders succeed. And so it's kind of like, coaches might be really good at coaching and strategy and those types of things, but you don't really want them on the field, like throwing a ball. You don't want them on the balance beam doing the thing most of the time. And so I started my business. I eventually, after about 4 years, divested myself from that. I also had a vineyard, like started a vineyard and got that to a really good point. And then that one I was good at. So left that and started teaching venture creation and product innovation at VCU, work in the startup field. So I do a lot of sales and revenue growth. That's like my real job. And then as a consultant, I help companies that are trying to figure out how to go from like that $1 million a year and then scale up to like, how do you get to the 5 and 10 million? And I'm really good at that as long as I'm not also trying to be the CEO and like wear every single other hat.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. April, you are working with founders and you have been a founder. What typical challenges do you see the current founders face in terms of scaling?
I think a lot of things that I mentioned earlier, inflection points, right? Like it's really hard when you're in the moment and you're having to like put out fires everywhere and do product innovation and drive revenue and manage teams and all of these things. It's hard to look to the future also and see like, where is shit going to go wrong and like anticipate it and work towards it because you're kind of in survival mode for the first few years and for the first couple $1 million in revenue, right? So I think one of the big things is not having the resources. So not that you have to do this yourself, but maybe having really good mentors really great investors who have done this before who can say, like, hey, we know this is coming. Let's make sure as we're solving for the problems today that we're also thinking about those. But we can't just build to solve for those, because if we just do that, then we can't, like, we're not going to succeed today. We're never going to get to that point. It's a really hard balancing act. And almost impossible unless you have just a fabulous team and, somebody probably who also is like doing your laundry and cooking your clothes and or cooking your food and like all the stuff. So I think that that's a really big one. I also think that people get excited when they have a little bit of money. Like one of the things I see is you get your first round and you're like, oh, we've got $1 million or a couple $1 million in the bank for maybe the first time ever. And they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to hire everyone. Well, that takes your burn rate and like it just really accelerates it. And so you end up in a place where you're burning through cash way faster than you thought that you would. And instead of getting creative with how you're bringing people on, one of the things that I've seen a couple of really successful founders do recently, and I just think it's fascinating because we don't usually see this, is when they bring somebody on to the team, they're looking at what the inflection point is going to be going to the future. And when they give them their offer letter, they also give them their severance package. And they're like, hey, this is what you're here for. And once you do that, we're probably going to outgrow each other and it's not going to be a great fit. And that's okay. Like, that's fine. You don't need to be with us forever. But here's what it's going to look like from a company perspective. And here's what it's going to look like for you. So when you are done here, we're going to give you this package. And if you can agree to this, come on to the team. And I think that's a really fascinating way to look at it and start having those conversations where you're like, hey, we're a startup. Like, we don't really
Yeah.
anticipate needing your skills that you have today in 5 years. And we shouldn't. If we do, then we're maybe not doing something right.
Absolutely. And that helps bring in the trust factor between the founder and the team that he is building, right? So April, you have also been a strong sales advocate. How do you see sales change in, currently we have technologically we are so enabled. There are so many platforms which help you to make sales and cadence based activity to reach out to your client. How do you see things have changed from?
I mean, listen, I came up like when I went into sales, you would get a yellow pages, like the big
Yeah.
book, right?
Yes.
And you would go through and you would find the businesses that you wanted to go to. And then you would call and you would be like, oh, hey, I'm trying to get in touch with the procurement manager. He asked me to call, but gosh, I can't remember his name now, And then like the person at the front desk would be like, you mean Sheila? And you'd be like, hang up, right? And then you'd wait a couple days and you'd call back and change your voice and be like, hello, I'm calling for Sheila. She asked me to call, right? Like, that's what I came up in from a sales perspective. Like, it was crazy, the wild, wild west. And today it's totally different, right? Like, you have all these AI platforms that can create these really kind of like compelling emails and outreach on LinkedIn and all of this stuff. And I think our buyers get overwhelmed. And I will never be one to say the phone is dead, but I don't answer my phone if I don't know who's calling, right? And so you have SDRs who are like with what they used to be able to achieve in 100 calls now have to take 400 or 500 calls. And so it's crazy, like the way that it's going. So I really think that the best way to grow business is to be out there talking about what you do. I think having some audacity, right, around who you're reaching out to and saying, like, hey, I feel like you've done this before. You might be my potential buyer. All I'm looking for is advice, right? Like, can I walk you through what I'm doing and you can tell me what's great about it and what sucks about it? Because two things are going to happen. One is you're going to get great advice, right? So that you can figure out how to ameliorate your product. The other thing is that person might become a customer or they might become a referral source or something like that because people love to be asked for advice. So I think that's one. And then I talk about this book all the time. And at some point, I think the author is going to have to like send me a signed copy or something. There's a book called, it's ridiculous. There's a book called They Ask You Answer by a guy named Marcus Sheridan. And he had a pool business. That's how he started, as he was selling pools. And he started looking at the sales process and going like, we're losing a lot of the opportunities that we get in. Then he was like, are they real opportunities or are these just people who don't have enough information to make a decision about whether or not they want to pursue having a pool? So he started creating a massive amount of content around what they did. And it was like every question that anybody had ever asked in any sales call, they wrote it down and created content around it. Even pricing, which is something that we tend to like hold behind a firewall, right? And what he found was that most people, if they had access to that, by the time they got on the phone with one of their salespeople, they were so informed. They were ready to start figuring out, what does this look like for me? Not just like what does it look like to buy a pool? What does it look like for me specifically with my backyard and my budget and my timeline? And when you get buyers at that point, they're much more likely to buy, especially if you've been a trusted resource for them. And so I think one of the best things that you can do is be out there talking about what you're doing, how you're doing it, what that means for the customer, and educating them. And then the last thing is get creative. Like, you don't have, we do these like massive scale, like, oh, we have to hit, whatever it is, 500 people a day. Pick 5 that are really, really, really targeted and do something. Print them off a custom made newspaper that has a headline about like they got promoted because they bought your stuff. Like send them. One of the things I used to do is I would send a cheesecake with their logo on it and one piece cut out and a little note that said, I don't want the whole pie, just a piece of it. Right. Do those things. It's a little bit more expensive and it's more time consuming, but you're more likely to get results from it. So that's my advice. My goodness. We all talk about AI all the time, right? Like it's crazy. And you have the people on one side who are like AI bubble, and then the other people who are going like, oh, it's gonna take over the world and they're going to become sentient. And but there's a lot of craziness here. I would say just like with anything else, figure out how to use it in moderation and be smart about it, right? Like if you're building an entire business and tech stack that's reliant on AI, that's not that smart, right? Like it might be cheaper, it might be faster, it might be all of the things, but it's not super stable, regardless of whether you can raise capital on it or not. Figure out what's the part that AI should do and what's the part that humans should do. Marry those. And I think that you end up with a really amazing way to solve human problems using tech.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Speaking about you, what is your vision for the next 3, 5 years? What are you looking at? Where are you heading?
Listen, my life, I live this insanely amazing life. I'm always busy. I'm always working with some of the like coolest people who are doing the best things. And I feel like for me, the next 3 to 5 years is just do more of that. Like be sitting in rooms where people are doing cool shit and help them do it. I always say I'll never be the person who's on the stage, like accepting the award, but I will always be the person in the audience, like watching those people going like, oh, I helped them. Oh, I connected them with that person. Like, we spitballed this idea and look what it came into. And that's my very favorite thing in the world. So I just want to do more of that. And when I'm not doing it, I want to be hanging out with my kids and my cats and be on a surfboard.
Wow, that's an interesting way to look at things, actually. And when you look back at your journey, April, is there anything you would have done differently?
I mean, listen, I'm the queen of failure. I have failed a lot. And I think there are moments that I look back and I go, man, I sure did spend a lot of money kind of pursuing that business that was a sinkhole, right? Or I sure did spend a lot of time trying to get that person to where they needed to be in this role. And I probably should have let them go and put somebody else in. And I think maybe I should have, but would I have learned the lessons that I did? Would I be here? I'm not a like everything happens for a reason type of person, but I do look at it and go, we learn, right? Like I was just telling somebody the other day, I hired a salesperson once for my business and I was working full time to actually support the business that I was growing in like a W-2 capacity, right? And so I had this whole team that I was trying to manage and this business I was trying to grow and working full time and young kids and whatever. And she was with us for 6 months and never closed a deal. And at one point I started going through the CRM and calling the people she was talking to and just going like, hey, can you help me understand why you didn't buy? And they were all like, we've never even heard of this person. We've never heard of this product. She was just making things up and putting it in the CRM. And so like, I look at those things and go, oof, man, I sure wish I had caught that at 3 months instead of 6 months, right? Or like, what if I had done something different? Is that something that I regret? Sure. But, was it catastrophic? Also not, right? And so, like, it's fine. I learned from it. I can tell the story and help other people not make the same mistake. And we just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. So, in that case, what would be your advice to a new founder who has an idea somewhere in Notepad or in a tissue? What would be your advice to him for execution?
Yeah, I mean, I think like go ask everyone you possibly can. Like do an amazing pre-discovery process. And not just the people who like don't go ask your mom and your friends who'll be like, "Yeah, of course you could do that," or "Of course that's a great idea." Like go find people and ask them a series of discovery questions to figure out, is this a problem that needs to be solved? And if it is, like, how painful is it? What's the unsexy part? Right? Because people are solving sexy problems. It's the unsexy problems where the money is and where you can like really kind of grab in, figure out what's the unsexy part, and then do like the minimum viable solution for it. Test it out. Do it fast, do it cheap, do it like across the spectrum of people and keep asking, is this working? Is this working? Like what would be better? And that's I think how you build a successful business as like a young entrepreneur, right? Who hasn't done this before. Because the stuff that you'll learn and also the idea that you have, maybe the problem stays the same, probably not. And the idea I think also doesn't. If you're talking to people and really getting like asking amazing questions, you're going to figure out that you don't know enough about this problem probably to solve it for everybody. But when you do figure out how to do it, then like you're going to slay.
Absolutely. April, one last question to you, and this I ask to all my guests. One piece of advice that you received change your perspective professionally and personally.
I every single day when I get up, I have this like ridiculous dressing room. It's pink. It has a gold rolling library ladder. It is filled with thrifted clothes and shoes and all of those things. As a woman in sales and a woman in entrepreneurship and business in the tech world, I've been told a lot to be smaller, right? And be kind of more pleasing and more pleasant. Now every day I walk into my dressing room and I put on like a pump up song, something Ariana Grande or like that makes me feel amazing. And I look at my clothes and say, how much space am I willing to take up today? And I dress for that. Like that is that I put on those clothes and I think this is how I'm going out to the world. And then I do it with just a high level of audacity, very little shame, and a massive amount of excitement and joy. And I think it's a winning combination for me. And so I say, like, at least give it a shot.
Wow, that's very interesting way to look at things, April. Thank you so much for joining us on our channel today. It was a wonderful conversation.
Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate what you all do, and I'm excited. Listen, and one last thing is if you all find me, I'm on LinkedIn and Instagram. My handles are Hot Mess Boss for both of them. If you find me, let me know that you found me on the Power Talk Show so that I can just like thank your team for introducing me to fun new friends.
Definitely. And I'll add your Instagram and LinkedIn to our description as well. Thank you so much,
Amazing.
April.
Thank you.